Godzilla is older than most of the population of the planet at this point, meaning that for many of them, he's been around for their entire lives. Of course, Godzilla is fictional for us, but he's very real for the people of Godzilla: The Half-Century War, a 2013 comic created by James DeCo and published by IDW. Half-Century War follows Japanese soldier Ota Murakami as he dedicates 50 years of his life to hunting down and stopping Godzilla. A half-century war, if you will, against an unkillable force of nature. It all begins for Oda in 1954, when Godzilla emerges from the sea to wander through Tokyo. I would say rampage, but Godzilla only ever seems to retaliate when attacked by Oda and his troops, which they do because Godzilla's mere presence endangers people. The military initially refers to him as bad weather, as just like a storm he's unstoppable, as even walking through Tokyo non-aggressively topples buildings and kills people. Godzilla leaves eventually, only to re-emerge a few months later, leading Oda and his friend Kentaro to join the Anti-Megalosaurus Force, or AMF, thus beginning Oda's half-century war. 1954 is when the first Godzilla movie released in Japan, making his debut year here a nice parallel to the real world. The next issue jumps ahead to 1967, way after the next Godzilla movie, but the parallels aren't done yet, we'll get to them later. After Godzilla mostly spends his time wandering around Tokyo, he suddenly starts heading south towards Vietnam, smack in the middle of the Vietnam War. Once again, nothing either the American or Japanese militaries do can stop Godzilla, let alone slow him down, until another giant monster emerges from the hills. It is Anguirus, Godzilla's first opponent in the films and his first opponent here. Anguirus actually puts up a pretty good fight before fleeing, and Godzilla leaves as well. General Schooler knows why Godzilla went to Vietnam, but that gets revealed next issue. Issue 3 opens in the ruined city of Accra, Ghana, dated 1975. By this point, it's clear that while most of the half-century war happens off-screen, each issue depicts a major turning point in Oda's life that changes the nature of the conflict. As it turns out, what called Godzilla to Vietnam was a psionic transmitter planted by a rogue AMF agent, Dr. Deverick. This time, another psionic transmitter has drawn 8 monsters, including Godzilla, to Accra, and they are all doing their best to tear each other to shreds as the city gets obliterated around them. The AMF has been holed up for days, hopeless to stop the monsters. The only thing they can do, General Schooler decides, is to destroy the transmitter and send the monsters home. After riding there in their truck, the AMF find Deverick holding an auction for psionic transmitters so terrorist types can use them to destroy enemy cities. Deverick manages to escape by turning up his transmitter, converging the monsters on their location. The general is crushed by the rubble, which proves to be devastating for the AMF. Come 1987 in issue 4, the AMF has been reduced to damage control, led by a disgruntled Oda. He spent his whole life trying to stop Godzilla, and now that he's been rendered incapable of helping, he's realized that he has nothing left outside of his war. Even when the government drops in Mechagodzilla to fight Godzilla, Oda can do nothing. Well, until he spots Deverick making another deal. Oda and Kentaro hunt him down, and Deverick tries the same trick as last time by turning the new transmitter to max. He doesn't escape this time, but his transmitter does bring in a psionic Godzilla from outer space that easily dispenses of Mechagodzilla, and even has Godzilla on the ropes. Oda gets to be useful once more by realizing that the Space Godzilla is powered by its crystals, and gets Mechagodzilla's last missiles to destroy them. Godzilla then obliterates the Space Godzilla, marking the first death of a monster this series. That's because there is only one Godzilla, and nothing can imitate it. The final issue takes place in 2002, and Earth is not doing well. Deverick's last transmission called in King Ghidorah and Gigan from outer space, and unlike the territorial Earth monsters, these two have been traveling around and ravaging the whole world. Earth's last hope is a miniature black hole cannon, and they will use a new Mechagodzilla to lure the two aliens into position. Someone new is supposed to pilot the Mechagodzilla, but Oda goes instead, refusing to sit out the final fight. Lo and behold, Godzilla shows up with the two aliens, and by working with Godzilla, Oda is able to fling the two into the black hole. He then emerges from Mechagodzilla to get Godzilla to notice him, and Godzilla finally responds with a roar as the two are dragged into the black hole. Kentaro finds Oda's half-century-old diary, while Godzilla swims away, having somehow escaped the black hole. You cannot stop the weather, and you cannot kill Godzilla. I've mentioned a bit about this story paralleling the real-life Godzilla films, with Godzilla debuting in 1954 both in story and in real life, as well as Anguirus being the second monster. Writer DeCo has also confirmed that issues 3, 4, and 5 are inspired by Godzilla's 3 eras, Showa, Heisei, and Millennium, and that inspiration does come through. Most of the monsters in issue 3 are from the Showa era, except for Batra for some reason, while Space Godzilla debuted in the Heisei film. They also haven't returned, which may be another reason why they died, and the Mechagodzilla assist mirrors the Mogira assist from the movie. Issue 5 is barely tied to the Millennium Era, aside from the black hole gun being from one of those movies. I really think the story should have ended in 2004, Godzilla's 50th anniversary and the release year of Godzilla Final Wars. It is the end to Ota's war, after all. Speaking of Ota's war, the big running theme in this story is that obsession leads to destruction. Ota's half-century war with Godzilla is obviously the big one. He's dedicated his whole life to hunting Godzilla, to the neglect of everything else, and has nothing to show for it. Godzilla finally acknowledges him right as they're both about to die, and then Godzilla survives anyways. Even after 48 years, his obsession bore no fruit, only his destruction. All that's left of him is his journal chronicling his obsession, which we've been seeing pieces of in narration throughout the story. His obsession consumed him until it became his entire legacy. Dr. Deverick follows a similar path, becoming obsessed with making money off of the psionic transmitters, to the point where he is willingly ravaging whole cities just to demonstrate their power. Plus, this obsession incidentally leads to the near destruction of the whole world by King Ghidorah and Gigan. His obsession doesn't go well for himself either, as he admits that he's in too deep and has no way out of the crime business. Like Ota, his obsession took over his life and left him with nothing else. Finally, the psionic transmitters, the cause of all the real problems in the story, literally weaponize obsession by forcibly drawing monsters to their location, making them ignore everything else in their path and then brawling to death once they get there. Without the psionic transmitters, there would be monsters, but there would certainly be no destruction of Akra or the ravaging of the world by space aliens. Forced obsession, combined with Deverick's own, nearly reduces the world to rubble. Funnily enough, the weapon that saves the day at the end is a black hole, which are known for pulling things in so strongly that they cannot escape, no matter how fast or strong they may be. They're all-consuming, kind of like an obsession, although this one is weaponized in humanity's favor. It's still destructive though, killing King Ghidorah, Gigan, and Ota. Obsession invariably leads to destruction, but this comic is also a parallel to the history of Godzilla in our real world. Combined with the running motif that Godzilla is a force of nature that can't be killed, is the story saying that our obsession with the fictional character of Godzilla will destroy us? I'm sure Godzilla will outlive us all, 70 years and still going strong. He is indestructible as an icon. But is that a bad thing? You could make an argument that the comic is commenting on our tendency towards remakes and sequels that is stagnating the entertainment industry, our obsession with old icons destroying our imagination and creativity, and I think the story is making that argument too, considering our main character's obsession is with, well, Godzilla. Being obsessed with Godzilla literally gets him killed. Although given that Godzilla is actually real in Ota's universe, it's less like saying that being obsessed with a film franchise will kill you, and more like saying that being obsessed with Category 5 hurricanes will kill you. So I think the two main themes do synthesize, but they also work just as well alongside each other. Obsession will kill you, and Godzilla is an immortal icon. Thanks for watching.